Before we get into this week's highlight episode, I just quickly want to say that next week is going to be a pretty big episode of the podcast. There's going to be 2 guests on it, one called Big Grandpa and the other one called Mario E. They're going to be showcasing a new mod framework that is coming out for DayZ. It has a lot to do with animations and adding animations hopefully to the game. I'm not going to give any more information away than that. If you want to check in next week at Saturday, May 1st at 8 p.m. GMT time, be sure to click the link down in the description or the link in the highlighted comments down below. Follow that Twitch so you know where to watch the episode on Saturday. But otherwise than that, let's get straight into the episode.
Toke disagrees with the changes to the amount of shock damage that is dealt to players who get hit by high caliber rounds. I agree with him. Dropping Uncon after taking a single shot to the vest isn't a good change for gameplay. Now, I asked for an elaboration on this tweet from him because I didn't quite understand what he was talking about. And Jake actually replied very briefly. I replied with just trying to clarify it. Wasn't there something Adam Franco said about the footage you may be referring to being offline mode and that it's different on servers? No, Tope replied, no, I tested it with admins on a normal server and in combat tonight. I said I would guess that they would fix this with a patch. Vest should offer protection on that. I agree. That's all he's concerned about. If you have a ballistic vest, you shouldn't go uncon. And I agree. To an extent, I still think if you get hit by a Mosin round, then, yeah, but I temper that with the whole, going back to his initial point, let's not forget it's still a bloody game and games need to be fun, not annoying. So I see his point on this issue, folks. It might surprise you, but I agree with Tope. There needs to be a balance.
As well. Yeah.
So the average player,
issue that he has with the patch is just that you're going unconscious in so many points where in 1.11 you would have been perfectly fine, which I can agree with as well, because like the one shot from the sniper is, if you got hit once by a Mosin with a plate carrier in 1.11 you'd be fine, yellow health, you keep going, but now you're getting dropped unconscious, and that's a lot of the time that's the fight done. Someone's going to run up and tap you in the head before you can wake up,
again,
and that's it done.
That I do not care about. That I do not care about, because at the moment you get one tapped and you're dead. Yeah. At least with the uncon status, it's still, you know, we've been very vocal on the podcast. I don't know how many of you guys have watched, but we've been very vocal on here about the need for this uncon status to be revamped. Because
yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah,
I think
now it comes down to a choice. Now you get that moment of suspense of, fuck, I'm uncon. Is my teammate going to finish him off, or is this guy going to come over and finish me, or is he going to... Yeah. The issue comes back to the thing about vests.
Yeah, I agree. I love the uncon status. I think it adds such a great intensity to it when you're not dead, but you're unconscious and you're hoping to wake up and, you know, pull out that pistol and save yourself, or, you know, I absolutely love it. But yeah, it does need a tweak.
The amount of interaction we've had, we played it for 2 days, the amount of interaction we've had when we wouldn't usually go over, if somebody's unconscious, we tie them up, resuscitate them, and then you'd either talk to them, question them, see what they have on them. There were some times where, you know, we tied people up and they'd wake up and they're just like, fuck you, and all this, and then we just punch them to death because they just don't deserve it, you know? But there's so much more interaction when people are knocked out. Yes,
I think... Sorry, go on. No, sorry.
There does need to be a balance. Like the uncon system is implemented. Now it's just to see, maybe they're gathering stats at the moment, who knows? Maybe now they just need to see what works best and what vests and stuff, and maybe a hot fix down the road, or maybe 1.13 there might be a completely new system there now because they'll get the stats for it. You know, we don't know.
Yeah. Like when sneakers wore out within 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, that everyone sort of wanted unconscious to be a much more bigger part of the game, because previously it was pretty much you're either dead or alive 90% of the time. You get hit once and you're either perfectly fine or you're completely dead. There wasn't really many circumstances where you'd be going unconscious, and I think it's great that you are going unconscious more now, but the issue that these guys have with it is that you're going unconscious too much. So even, for example, if you get shot in the leg by a Mosin or any 308 or 7.62 by 54, one, your leg's going to break now, and then two, you're also going to be unconscious. So if you're wearing the best armor in the game, you've got the best helmet, the best vest, the only place you can get hit by a sniper without going unconscious is the arms, which I think that's just too much in my opinion.
So maybe they need to reduce the shock damage. Because it's the shock that knocks you out, right? So maybe they need to relook at that for each
I think
weapon.
it'd be a great mechanic if they would just make it so that the plate carrier will reduce the amount of shock you take, so that if you have a plate carrier, you can take a shot without going unconscious. But maybe
see,
if you have a
this
stab
comes
vest, you
down
go
a lot
unconscious from
to
one shot.
the server that you're playing on, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If you're playing on a server where there's an abundance of high-tier ammunition and weapons, then it's going to happen to you more, and you shouldn't really be complaining about it. If you're playing
100.
on a more hardcore server where that stuff is rare, then, see, again, for the likes of Taupe and Minder and that, those guys are going to be dishing out a hell of a lot more uncon statuses and deaths than they're probably going to be receiving, because those guys are gods of PvP. Their skills are insane level. For me, I'm going to be lucky to hit you in your little toe if I fire a full mag at you. So they're playing on servers where this is something that's got to be remembered when they look at balancing this. For the servers I like to play on, it sounds like, other than the issue with maybe the ballistic vests and so on, it sounds like it's pretty damn good for me. That said, I'm not a PvPer. I don't have a lot of skin in that game. But for the servers where everyone just runs around shooting each other, it's, you're choosing to play on this type of server.
We were playing on modded server. Everybody either had 5.56 Mosin ammo or 308 coming out of DMRs.
Yeah.
I got knocked out God knows how many times by 308 to the body. I've also knocked numerous people out. I've one-tapped people also in the chest with 308. It varies so much, and I was like, obviously we're going to get knocked out a lot more. We're being shot with 308. Everyone on the server is 308. The loot is insane. So I think the devs look at it because they're implementing it for the vanilla game. The vanilla game is completely different to a highly modded PvP server. It's night and day difference. So I think people need to realize that they're making the game based on the vanilla stats and not, not like people are running around with 338 Lapua snipers and Barrett 50 cals and 50 BMG ammo and Shaytax, and they're wondering why they're getting knocked out all the time. It's because they're playing with custom ammo and weapons that are not meant to be in the game at all. And I just think people sometimes forget that, it's a modded server and they're building it for vanilla, and it's night and day difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, the update's not far from being good. I think there is just a couple of things they should tweak, like, for example, the ballistic vests. And in my opinion, you shouldn't go unconscious from a leg shot either, because getting your leg broke by the shot is already enough of a punishment. And I think that's quite a fun mechanic. I've always wanted to see broken legs come back properly. So
it's good,
I can imagine you're running through a field, someone takes a shot, the shot hits you in the leg, now your leg's broke and you're rolling, you're trying to find cover, you're trying to fight back. That sounds fun to me, but right now what's going to happen is you're going to get shot in the leg, you're going to go unconscious and your leg's broke, and by the time you wake up, what the hell are you going to do? You're sitting there, you've just woke up, your gun's on the floor, you've got a broken leg, you're pretty much done for it. I think it'd be so much more fun if you didn't go unconscious from a leg shot from the start. I think that's just...
I'd be very curious to hear from someone, because I haven't gone uncon once yet because I avoid PvP, but I'd be very curious to hear how similar it is to the old 0.62 and before days now. Is it the same sort of rate of uncon, or because that was almost perfect back then? It didn't happen all the time, but you could usually maybe tank a shot or two, and then you went uncon. Your blood loss might drive you uncon and you bled out for a while.
It needs to be toned down just slightly, so not back to what it was before, because you would barely ever go unconscious before.
Yeah.
But it's just slightly too much right now.
Like, I have a perfect clip of that, like exactly what you just said in my most recent video. I'm shot by a DMR right in the chest. I have a play carrier on. My stun goes back, and then my character falls to the floor. Flashing red health, not a single cut. Just have to
Yeah,
rewatch
that's
that back
another
then.
thing actually, is the stuns. So right now the only calibers that stun you are the 308 and 7.62x54. And by stun I mean that animation where your character sort of stumbles back and you get shot.
And they really
But
stun you as well.
That will only happen now if you go unconscious after it as well, if that makes sense. So if you're shot by a Mosin or a Winnie, you're going to stumble and then you're going to go unconscious. So there's not going to be any point where you're going to stumble and then not go unconscious after it, and it sort of just, it makes the stumbling completely useless. Like, what's the point of having the stumbling in the game, because you're going to go unconscious immediately after it anyway. So that could be a decent way to balance it, would be that if you get hit by a Mosin when you're wearing a plate carrier, maybe you don't go unconscious but you do stumble. If that makes sense.
That could work. But then they kind of need to work out the stumble, because when you're stumbling you can't shoot. So they need to balance that then as well somehow, or maybe not. Maybe that's just how the effect of it goes. Because I guess if in real life, if you were shot in the chest with a play carrier and had a 308 on, you'd be stumbling as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I don't really like the real life argument, I guess. Like, of course it's important to be realistic in a game like this, but I would argue it's more important to get a fun balance for the game than to be completely stuck to realism.